Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cinema Wave podcast. We are here to talk about episode 3 of Disney Plus's and Marvel's Agatha All Along. I am one of your hosts. My name is Darian Scalamoni. I am joined by Michael Peniston.
Hello, everybody.
Let's get into it. I did the solo for the first 2 episodes. Michael unfortunately couldn't make it, but I'm glad you're here for this episode because, in my honest opinion, this has been the best episode of the series so far. I thought that the biggest thing with this episode, and again, for the people who, this is going to be a spoiler review, so we're going to talk spoilers. So just be prepared for that. The episode came out a few days ago by the time this releases, so you guys have been warned. But with this, I thought it was like the perfect example of the show completely coming into its own with its identity. Like it was fully, unapologetically Agatha, and that was totally their mentality in the beginning. Because you weren't on the last episode that I did solo, give me your opinion so far, not only on this episode and the first 3 in general, but the tone of the show and if it works for you or if it's just something that you're not really feeling so far, and why is that if you're not?
So I knew going into this, I didn't have like big expectations or like high expectations. I knew it was going to be interesting to kind of explore not just Agatha coming off of WandaVision, but hopefully a little bit more of Wanda coming off of both WandaVision and Doctor Strange too. But I still knew it wasn't like I was that excited for it. I'm not that interested in the witch side of Marvel, to be honest. Like Scarlet Witch was cool, and I feel like the storyline that came with that and Vision and all of that was really cool. But like getting more into like the Darkhold and all of
The
that,
magic
like,
side of it.
yeah, you know, it's like it's cool to have it involved and to see it play into the rest of the whole lore of Marvel. But I was just never really interested in that sort of thing. I'll say that the first 2 episodes were better than I thought, going into it.
Like better than your expectation of what you thought it was going to wind up being.
Yes. Because again, my expectations were fairly low. It was interesting going into it. It still wasn't like an amazing sort of watch. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, the first 2 episodes, I like getting introduced to the world. I like coming into it, coming right off of like the world of WandaVision and seeing a lot of those characters still kind of in this world, and like just Westview, how it would be if outside of Wanda's head essentially. It was pretty shocking to see, and I know this is spoiler, so I'm just gonna kind of drop with it. It was interesting to see Wanda actually dead. In that first episode, I was like, oh, snap. Like, okay. Because I was, like, surprised. Like, oh, we got the Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange, too. And then we lost her. And so it was like, oh, wow. I don't know if we really got to see a lot of her. And I'm hoping maybe we might get to see more. But, again, I liked how they brought us into this show. I liked the fact that, like, the witches of the Coven and teen. Lot of things I could say there, but I'm gonna hold off for now.
We can go theory baiting towards the end.
Yes. If we even want to do it this early in the show, I heard it's 11 episodes. But yeah, no, I thought it was cool. I was a bit lost in terms of where we were really going. I know that we had to get to like the Witch's Road and all that, and like Teen wanted to kind of like experience that, and like he has some underlying goal, and really I don't really know what Agatha's goal. I know she needs to get her powers back, but it feels like it's more than that. So I was lost with that. Moving into episode 3, I don't know if you want me to go right into it.
Sure.
Or, moving into episode 3, I agree. I felt like it was a lot better. It felt like its own thing, which I appreciated more. I didn't even realize was something I would appreciate more. This feels like, with the season, a Halloween show right now.
Yeah.
Like there was a scene when like they were like in the Witch's Road, and it was like right before what's the old lady's name again?
Mrs. Hart or
Sharon.
Sharon. Yeah.
Yes. Right before Mrs. Hart gets like sunk into like the deep mug and all that stuff. There's like a scene where they're like standing here. She's like going, like Agatha's like talking to them individually, and I think they're all like kind of freaking out for a reason. That felt like something you would see in like Twitches or like something, you know what I'm saying? Like it felt very Halloween-y. So that I appreciated, and then also just being able to see a little bit more of these characters and Agatha. Like this team build. I thought it was cool. I really like the world that they're building with this. I'll say I don't know if we're still having concepts of WandaVision play into this show or not, or Wanda having a play into this. But the fact that they go from like a creepy, ominous sort of like road to like this like west, like this like desert house sort of thing that like they're very it felt like the shows you would watch in WandaVision. That's why I was like, oh snap, I don't know, this is kind of cool. Like I like to see where we're going with this. Again, I'm still not that big into the witch thing, to be honest, but it was interesting what they did.
I think the cool thing with it, and what you're maybe trying to describe too, is that it just feels like they have an identity, which is so different than a lot of the shit we've been seeing from Marvel recently, and that's why I think it feels like, for example, the one that a lot of people point to is like Secret Invasion. Of a show that like it just felt like they never really had their foot on exactly what they wanted to go for with that show. She-Hulk, I think they had an idea of what they wanted to do. It just didn't really work for everybody. But some of the Disney Plus shows in general too, I think it leans a little bit more towards Star Wars, which I know you're not really caught up on. But Star Wars, it felt like they just started kind of being like, well, we're going to set this up, but we're not really going to explain why this is. And there's not a real reason why we're doing this. We're just doing it just to do it. And a lot of the Marvel movies were doing that. Like Thor Love and Thunder is a good example of a movie that didn't work for a lot of different reasons, because Taika's trying to mix in comedy with this villain that is the exact opposite of comedic. Like it just didn't necessarily work in terms of the tone. With this, it's like the costume design is on point. Like the production design is great. I might have said this to you the other day when we were recording our news episode, but it's also, I'm pretty sure a lot of it's filmed on location, and it feels like it. It doesn't feel like, or if it's not location, it's like they've built real sets. It's not like something where they're in the volume, where it just feels like they're in the volume. You know what I mean? And I think that's why this episode is so effective in what it's trying to do. And I agree with you. Like, there's certain things, like, I'm not like the biggest Hocus Pocus fan. I think it's fun, and I watch it when it's Halloween, like, especially with my girlfriend, who's like a big fan of the movie. But overall, I'm like, it's fine for me. You know, like Halloween movies isn't always where I gravitate towards. I have certain ones that I really love, like Nightmare Before Christmas and Coraline, but like, that's not necessarily my vibe all the time either. But I agree with you. I think that a lot of what the show is trying to do is also play into that, and witches naturally kind of play into that theme of Halloween. You know what I mean? Catherine Hahn, I think, is just made to play Agatha, though, too. Like, she's great as Agatha. Like, there's really good comedic bits, I feel like, with her and the witches, which I do appreciate. Like, although the humor is not always our sense of humor, I don't think. It's humor that works for the audience, which I also think, and someone else was talking about this, it's like how Marvel and Disney are trying to appeal to people that aren't necessarily MCU diehards with this show. They're trying to get more of an audience, whether it's a female audience, whether it's a Halloween-based audience, you know what I mean? And I think they're doing it effectively. Like, I think that, like, my girlfriend hasn't watched the show yet. She's, like, not even fully caught up on all the MCU stuff, but she loved WandaVision. And I'm like, I think she would love the show. Like, I think there's so much in this show that she would like that it makes sense. And for me, with this episode in particular, like I said, the thing I liked that they did most effectively is they had a contained episode about going through this trial, and everything made sense, and we got answers, and we're not sitting there, or if we're not getting answers, they're doing good ways of trying to throw us off our trail, and it's effective. It's not something where it's like, wait, why did they say that if there's not going to be a payoff to it, or all these things. And again, we're talking spoilers. We get a Mephisto reference, which people were like clamoring for in WandaVision.
Yeah.
And we finally get it here. And because everyone's like, where's Mephisto? Where's Mephisto? Is this happening? Is this not happening? Regardless of whether or not we see him, we now have a reference to him being someone that is of importance in the MCU. And I think that is going to appeal to certain people. Yes. So that was my big thing with this episode, is that I just thought that they worked so well together in terms of the storytelling with this episode. And though it was a contained story, it also helped us build towards what was going to come in the future. Yeah. Was there something that, like, what was your biggest takeaway with this episode? Was something like, whether it's something that was contained within the episode that you really appreciated or you really liked, or something in terms of the story going forward that you're now more excited for, or you want to know more about going into episode 4, which, by the way, it's going to be 9 episodes.
Oh, it's
9. So we still have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we got six weeks.
It's still a lot.
I think it's going to go until October 30th, which, again, marketing, they planned that smartly. Yeah.
Smart boys
Yeah.
and girls. Coming off of this episode, I have one question, something that was revealed in this, and you might be able to jog my memory better. In WandaVision, was it already revealed that Agatha had sacrificed a son, or is that brand new info?
Pretty sure that's brand new info, and we can get into it if you
Okay.
want.
Yeah.
Because I think it's trying to throw the audience off.
Really?
Because yes, I do. So, well, here's the thing. Like, so Teen, we haven't really talked a lot about Teen. You brought him up a few times. Played by Joe Locke, who is this up and coming actor from Heartstopper, which is this big gay romance series on Netflix. People seem to like him. I really like him in this role. I think he's great. And I think they're trying to throw it off maybe because also he has this sigil spell, which they reveal in this episode where we finally find out that witches are unable to hear who he truly is, what his name is. So they just are all calling him Teen. I think in that when you get the conversation between him and I want to get the witch's name right so we can start to learn the characters.
Yeah, we do, because I do not know.
I know. He has I think it's Jennifer Kale, right? Yeah, it says Shira Zamata's character from the woman who was on SNL. So Teen has this conversation with Jennifer, and she's like, she'd like sacrifice the son to like get her powers and all this stuff, which I think is trying to tell the audience like maybe somehow he was brought back by Rio, which we can get into Rio in a little bit too, because you didn't get to talk about her last week. But I think that might be trying to throw the audience in that direction, which it could wind up being that, and then it's a little predictable. But there's also the theories online that he could be playing Wiccan, Billy Maximoff, to kind of bring in that Wanda sort of through line. And at the for when all of the witches get their own like scary moments, Agatha's is that there's a baby crib and there's a Darkhold in there, and she could have sacrificed her son to get her powers with the Darkhold. So they're trying to throw people off. I think my theory is that he's going to be Wiccan. I mean, I think that was a rumor when he was first cast anyway. And the other thing is that Wiccan is a gay character in the comic books, so that's where I'm leaning towards it. But they haven't revealed that previously. Were you thinking sort of the same sort of thing?
I was thinking a similar thing as far as especially Joe Lott's character. That's definitely Wiccan. Like, especially following. There's too many like breadcrumb like hints as well. Following the fact that like they've been clearly trying to build out the Young Avengers, and those are two key. Notice I say two. Those are two key components of the Young Avengers. This first half. I feel like for sure is being Wiccan being introduced. It just also makes sense knowing Wiccan's abilities and everything that's kind of happening, and just again everything. So I believe it. I definitely can see it being a thrown off situation. I wasn't. I don't know. There's still so much to Agatha that I feel like is left a mystery. And that's one thing that I really do appreciate because obviously like this isn't the first time that we're meeting Agatha. Like there was a whole show around her, and like that's where we got to see a little bit more of her. Oh, okay, this woman has had like a use of like the Darkhold magic, and like clearly she's a significant character in this world. But it's still nice to know that there's not a lot that we still know about her.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
I think that's the thing with the witch culture, regardless of how like, and I'm curious on your thoughts on it. With the witch culture, I think there's so much to still be explored with the magic side of the MCU, and that's kind of why I don't want to throw it aside yet. Like if you think about Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, we get this really significant regardless of what you think about the movie, the post-credit scene is kind of significant, where we're getting him having this interaction with Thea, who's played by Charlize Theron, where they're now universe jumping to like try to stop all these forces, and Doctor Strange is like basically the only mystic hero. I mean, again, you have the side characters like you have Wong, but Scarlet Witch now, like at the end of that movie, again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen a movie that's 2 years old, but Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, we think we see the demise of Wanda. They try to double down on that in this series. I agree with you. I don't think she's dead. I think that it would be a very inconsequential way to kill a character. One that's a major character, not only in the movies, but had probably the most all-around successful series that the MCU has produced in Disney Plus. I like a couple series more than it, but it had great viewership. It was critically loved, and Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany are fantastic in it, as is Catherine Hahn and everybody else that's in it.
Mm.
So I think that's one thing. Secondly, with X-Men coming down the pike, like there's no way that Wanda's not going to be a part of the mutants.
Yeah,
like
no.
she's too significant of a character if they decide to go House of M route or they decide to do whatever they're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious to see the role that Agatha is going to play in all this, because Agatha is a big character in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we don't have a reveal yet, obviously, on who Rio is going to be, which is played by Aubrey Plaza, who is a character that, or is an actress, I should say, that is of a certain caliber that you're not just going to hire her for one thing. We don't get any reveals of Rio in this. But do you have any theories regarding who she may be playing or what is going on with her character? We do get glimpses in some of the trailers of her entering the Witch's Road and wearing green. And in the last episode, like, where's our Earth Witch or Green Witch? I forget exactly how they explain it. But Rio, I think, is going to show up again, sort of filling the void potentially that might be if Deborah Jo Rupp's character of Mrs. Hart is dead. Mm-hmm. So did you have any theories on that kind of stuff with Aubrey Plaza's character?
Yeah, I have a lot of theories on Aubrey Plaza's character. I know a few theories have been floating around online as well. I believe you're right. This isn't just a character that you throw in for one episode. Although Marvel is good for that. They're just using character for one character wasted potential.
Ralph Boner.
Yeah. Yes.
Literally Evan Peters as Quicksilver / Ralph Boner in WandaVision. But who knows? We might see him again too. Now the multiverse is in play.
You don't know, honestly, especially if the shows are connected. I have a lot of theory. I'm kind of going to follow a lot of what I've heard online as well, just because it makes sense. I have a major theory that I think that Rio is actually Lady Death. I believe so. I think we talked about that a little bit prior. But it made sense, honestly, and I just wanted to bring that theory up just because, as far as their journey along, I feel like we're going to start to see that play out in a weird way. Obviously, Lady Death, I feel like she's still with them, if that makes sense. That you might not be seeing her, but especially seeing how.
Do we need to get plugged in?
Yes, we do.
I just realized. Forgot to plug it in. Where's the cord? I forgot to plug it in. It's in my backpack. Oh, okay. You're making a good point, too. Shit. Don't lose it, Mikey. Don't lose it.
So, because I'm going to connect other Marvel things.
This is what happens when we talk about the fucking Illuminati.
That's so true.
Don't worry, we got another hour in us after this. If you want, you can cut it, and then you can go back and look and see what you say, or we can keep rolling.
I mean, that's more so if you want to edit this, or do you want to just?
Oh, I can cut this out of it. I don't care.
Okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
We'll just keep going.
Okay.
Because I know what I was gonna say. Let me catch my thought and my breath. Sip. Okay. I feel like so I feel like it seems like she's still with the team right now. I have a feeling, just knowing her character, and at least the theory of her character, and seeing how this episode ended with Sharon dying. I don't know. I feel like she's gonna play her way into all of this, even if it means some sort of deal in the end where like Agatha, like she brings them back to life, or like I just feel like coming off of the first interaction that we had with Aubrey Plaza and Catherine Hahn's characters, where like you kind of saw that sort of like it was almost kind of like sexual.
It was
too, right?
it totally it had a vibe that she had romantic feelings for her.
Yes,
definitely did.
Yes, and so I don't know. Just coming off of that, I feel like there is some sort of relationship there that is going to play into the rest of the coven, especially as they go through these trials. If one character dies, obviously that's related to death. which is gonna then be related to Death, Lady Death. So I feel like she is still around here. If you want to go into a grander scope of things, and like, because I have heard that she will be used for movies eventually. I know that Thanos and Lady Death have relationships, and a part of the reason why he does what he does, and the snapping of it all has to do with her.
Which is why I'm so curious on where they're going to go with that,
Yeah,
because that like unless we get a multiversal Thanos, I can't see that happening.
I don't.
Especially because now we're going to have RDJ as Doom. It's already going to get a weird conflicting thing for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
I could see her maybe playing that role to Doom now. Like maybe they decide to go that route where
Mm-hmm.
there's like a relationship element, because there's that part of it too with Lady Death and Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you in terms of the spiritual thing too. We actually don't see Mrs. Hart die.
Mm-hmm.
The next time they're actually like trying to finish the trial right before the alarm is going to go off, and she is up, like she like swallows whatever it is, even though she's like passed out on the table.
Mm-hmm.
She gets up, she's okay, and then the next time you see them, they're all going into the oven, and then she's just dead. You don't even see her slide down. You get shots of all 5 other characters, the 4 witches and Teen, and you don't get Mrs. Hart. So I think that could be. I mean, we're definitely going to get Aubrey Plaza's character Rio, I think, in episode 4. Like, you're not going to keep her
Yeah.
on the shelf like for a whole episode and then be like she's going to disappear now for like 3 episodes. Like,
Especially if you said the scene of her coming in with the green. I feel like that's now going to allude to who was the protection, or wasn't there somebody wearing green? Jennifer's character, the witch. Who's
was
the
she
lady?
wearing
The lady
green?
from well, Aubrey wasn't Rio. Didn't you say in the trailer you saw her entering
So
the
Rio
witch?
Rio does enter the witch's trial in the original trailer of the series in a green dress when they show her on the witch's trail. But I'm pretty sure that what Jennifer is saying in episode 2, when they're all getting together before they sing down the road,
Mm.
they say like, "Where's our green witch?" Or like, "Where's our Earth witch?" It's one of the two, and that's when she's like, "I'll be
Oh,
right back," and that's when she goes and recruits Mrs. Hart, which is hilarious, by the way.
it was funny. Yes.
And she's like, "It's Sharon, sweetie," and she's like, "Mrs. Hart, whatever. We'll just come to a party." It's like so great, and Deborah Jo Rupp is so great in WandaVision and this, and
Mhm.
obviously I know her best from like that '70s show. Most people do,
Yep. Yeah.
and she's just a great actress. And I hope she's like, I don't think we're gonna see like they're gonna bring her back somehow. I just think for the time being, they're like just sit off to the sidelines. But like even her reveal in this episode, like when they first drink the wine and like they have the crazy faces. It's just so great. She's like in the middle of talking and she's like, "What do you think, sweetie?" And I'm like, "What the hell is going on with your face?" It's good. It's a good reveal. It is. It's a good reveal.
It
But
is.
yeah, so I mean, there's definitely still things to come with Rio. What did you think of the whole element of the trial in this episode playing out as one whole episode? Like, did you? Somebody actually wrote in one of the comments on IMDb, which I thought was so great. They were like, "It's like an escape room for witches," which I thought was great, and it's a
Yeah.
really cool concept in and of itself.
Mhm.
So, what did you think about that, and us getting a glimpse of all the individual witches' own fears or massive life events that kind of change them, potentially getting their powers taken away?
I really liked the use of the trial. Like you said, I really like the analogy that you just brought up with the comment. I could definitely see that with this episode. I feel like the trials are the only way that we'll really truly learn these characters. And I like the idea of like a whole episode being related to a trial. Also, when you have like an ensemble, I'm sure it's not the easiest thing to just like, this is this character. This is, you know what I'm saying? Like we all saw Eternals. So that wasn't initial watch. It wasn't the easiest. I learned to appreciate that film. But yeah, it's not an easy thing. So I feel like this is the best way to do that, um, especially utilizing one episodic that and two world building, because I feel like through these trials, like the same way that we were taken out of the witch road and brought into like this sort of completely contrasting environment, it's cool, and it plays into like, again, just the world of it all. I feel like learning more about these characters through the trials, um, it's gonna be cool to see how that all will eventually play into the coven, because I do see some of that playing into it to a degree, whether it's just like personality and stuff like that get in the way of things. I'm curious to see where they take it, but I thought that the trial was smart. Yeah, that's all I really have to say.
No, I think that's a great. I think that's a great comment though, in
Yeah.
terms of the world building and
Yeah.
how they're able to do something like that. Like, I'm glad you brought up Eternals too, because it's a good example of like. And I enjoy the film. I've always enjoyed it, but I understand the criticism with it. That could have always worked better for me as a series. Like, they could have done it with these 8 characters over 8 episodes, and you could like literally name a whole episode after a character, but also have these intermingling, but then you see the reasons why the characters became who they were and all those things. Thought would have worked way better, and now I don't know if we're ever gonna see him again. So that kind of stinks.
Yeah.
My theory in terms of what's gonna happen, I mean, it's very early to kind of predict. We're a third of the way through it, but I think at the end it's gonna be like something where, you know how like in Multiverse of Madness you get like they're the Illuminati in the chairs, and they have to speak to these people as they're like the dictators of like the different universes in the multiverse and things like that. I could see the Coven at the end of this acting as like the sort of gatekeepers for the mysticism in Marvel. I could totally see that. So that's a way you could definitely bring them back, and you could keep them as a unit, because they're not going to be like a superhero team. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But again, also, if we get these other strands of things that would have some sort of impact on the MCU, whether it is Teen eventually being Billy, or Anna's getting a reveal of Speed, which I don't know if we're gonna get that. You mentioned the one kid. To me, there's been no indication of a second kid unless they're referring to Agatha's.
Are you talking about the other son?
The other son, yeah.
I don't think that's going to be in this show. I just
Okay,
think
you just think we're gonna get a reveal down the road.
I think that will be in Vision Quest. That's my.
That's
my
okay. That's
personal-
probably a fair point.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already casting for Vision Quest, so that would make sense. That's gonna be one of the upcoming shows.
Yeah.
You're smart. But that totally makes sense. So if we get the reveal of Teen potentially being Wiccan, we maybe get a glimpse of Mephisto. Who knows if that's going to happen? Or maybe we get more information with Wanda. Or if Rio winds up being Lady Death, I think it'll be a satisfying, conclusive thing. Because I think the problem with some of these shows recently is like, and it is sad because, and this is why I think this show is working better for me than some of the other shows that I've seen recently on Disney Plus. It is, again, such a well constructed, contained story. Jack Schaefer made WandaVision, also made Agatha, and she knows the story she wants to tell with these characters. And you could tell the nods to like Practical Magic, and the nods to Hocus Pocus, and the nods to certain horror movies. Because in the character interactions we get with all the individual witches, Patti LuPone's character, her name is Lilia, the older witch. We get that moment where she walks in, and it's like pretty terrifying scene when she walks in and she's like, they're all dead. And it's like, it's kind of a cool way of kind of seeing this emotional beat that she's going through. And then in episode 2, you see like the what are they called? The Salem 7. We see them at the end of episode 2, and you see them like crawling down the stairs. So there are moments that are like, I mean, again, it's PG-13 horror, but like it's a little bit darker than I think some other things would go in Marvel. So it's cool to see that. I am curious if this maybe eventually leads into like something with Werewolf by Night, because that's another thing that we still have no indication of what's going to happen with Werewolf by Night and with I was going to say Swamp Thing, but it's not Swamp Thing. You know what I'm talking about? Man Thing? It is Man Thing, right?
Man Thing, yeah.
Man Thing. So, like, we have no indication of what's going to happen with any of these characters, or Amelia Bloodcourt, or, like, anything. Like, they're all just gone. They've vanished. So, there's a lot of loose ends that obviously need to sort of be solved with the MCU right now.
Yeah.
But I think they're trending in the right direction. And if they can, again, separate these stories in the right way while still building a Young Avengers, while still building this coven that could act as something significant going forward for Thea or Doctor Strange or any other mystical heroes we might get, like Moon Knight. Like, who knows? We don't know what's going to happen with any of these things. So it is interesting to sort of see what happens. I feel like there's not much else to talk about with this episode. I think that Teen is still a character where the jury's out, but I think that he's done a really great job in his role. And in terms of antagonist, I mean, it's very obvious that Aubrey Plaza's character is the one that's acting out in a certain way. And we'll kind of see how that all kind of comes to fruition. But was there anything else that stood out to you in this episode, or things you wanted to comment on?
I mean, I have another theory.
Yeah, absolutely.
About, especially with Teen. I don't remember if in any of like the previous episodes he admitted to not having like a magical power or anything like that. I personally believe that he's hiding more info than we realize, and that he might end up being the one to trick Agatha in the end.
Interesting.
I do.
Okay.
I have a feeling that this is gonna sound kind of weird and crazy, but I'm just really thinking like far into it. I know in the comics, Mephisto has a hold over the twins at a certain point. And if you notice, each time he tries to say his name, and like the spells over where an M comes over him. I'm not necessarily saying that that's Mephisto.
Whoa, I never noticed that it was an M
Yeah, I'm not necessarily. It could be that, or it could be a W. You know, if you want to
for Wanda.
for Wanda, if
Yeah.
you want to like view it like that. I'm not necessarily
It
saying
also could
that.
be an M for Maximoff.
It could be as well. It could be.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily kind of like saying that that's Mephisto having a hand in that, but I wonder if knowing that Wanda, this show started seeing Wanda dead, and we had this scene where it was like an intervention scene, not intervention, I mean interrogation scene, between Teen and Agatha when they first met, and you got a reveal of like the black fingers, so you know that Teen has had some sort of use of dark hold magic.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if Teen is not necessarily like in cahoots with Mephisto, but if Mephisto still has a hold and Teen is trying to bring his mom back to life in the end. And he's using Agatha in all of this. And I personally believe he has his magic all throughout this. Like, you know, like he's just trying, like, there's obviously an underlying goal, I feel like, for Teen. But there's a lot. And I honestly, it being his mom, and he's already kind of talked about, like, a life of, like, oh, no, like, at one point he was using, like, it was, like, a certain utensil in the kitchen. And he was like, oh, no, my dad uses this, da, da, da. Like, I feel like there were, like, hints of, like, him, like, knowing that.
Yeah,
but
from being a kid in WandaVision.
And, like, now having him have, like, a physical sort of body, I think he's trying to, because I don't think he like, I think he was put in that body, if I'm not mistaken. If it is Wiccan, if it is built like whatever Maximoff's son it is, I think because they're from like the multiverse, like somebody put their souls into bodies. I think that's
it could have been Wanda.
Yeah, or it could have been Mephisto.
Or it could have been Mephisto.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm wondering if now he's trying to now backtrack, and if that's how maybe we get Scarlet Witch back. Maybe he brings his own mom back to life. And maybe we get the family dynamic. Maybe that doesn't happen, and this is just the introduction of Wiccan and all of that. I just feel like there's underlying things going on with Teen, and I wonder if the twins will be the way that we get Mephisto introduced into the MCU.
I think that's a great theory. And I have one last question before we wrap up, because I see it in the way you're explaining it too. And this is how I feel, because I get excited and giddy when you hear these kinds of things and we try to connect the dots, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the two show, and I don't mean to be negative, but if I go back and try to think about all the MCU shows that have come out recently, the only ones that are that are recent that I could think of that were like doing the opposite of what you're talking about now is like She-Hulk and Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
Two shows that we thought were going to be something. They were entirely a different something.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't really lead us down a path in which any of the theories were fun. There was nothing that was getting us excited week to week about the shows.
Mm-hmm.
And we weren't getting any real reveals of certain things happening.
Mm-hmm.
With Agatha all along 3 episodes in, it feels like we could already play the game of theory baiting and what it could mean going forward for the larger MCU, and this whole story of Wanda and Vision, and it's connected. Like we're seeing the continuity. Like you had it with WandaVision, then Agatha all along, and I'm glad you brought up Vision Quest, which is going to be the next series that's led by Paul Bettany playing, I believe it's the White Vision, and seeing what kind of comes of his character. Plus, it was already confirmed that James Spader is going to come back to voice Ultron, so that's interesting to see what's going to happen with Ultron. Obviously, who knows what it's going to mean. So do you feel that there's a deeper level of excitement and interest and intrigue with this show than other recent Marvel shows because of the fact that we can have these discussions week to week, and we can kind of look forward to potentially having it have a larger impact going forward?
Yes. I feel like for me, and maybe you as well, this is a driving thing. I feel like in the midst of the Marvel content that we've been getting, the quality of the Marvel content that we've been getting, the lore of it all, and like the theory basing is what's driving a lot of people right now, and what's holding a lot of people still into it. So being able to do this, especially now, with like you said, like what will be almost like a trilogy of shows, almost, it's a little easier to do it. I remember, even though it was harder with like shows like She-Hulk and Secret Invasion, us trying to do it, and then everything just like flopping completely, or just because there wasn't a lot of foundation for those theories. It was something still so new, and even though this is new, yes, we're coming off of WandaVision. Yes, we're coming off of the films of Wanda, the films of Vision, everything that's kind of like built to this moment. So like, yes, I feel like with this show particularly, it will be a little bit more intriguing simply just with that whole side of it, the theory basing, just because right now it feels like this is some of the really a lot of the most grounded we are with Marvel, if that makes sense. Like, and you kind of touched on that too, but like aside from all of like these introductions of random shows and short little things and everything like that, and yes, they're doing a lot. As soon as ending ended, this was like the first WandaVision was the first thing we got. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like for a lot of people, this is like the continuation of this next of the start of this next phase or this next saga that we're in with Marvel.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a little easier to piece those things together.
100%. And I'm looking back right now for reference of, and all the people who are probably yelling in the comments being like, "Well, we forgot about this, all this shit." So we started the network in May of 2023. So since May of 2023, the things that we have covered on here have been Secret Invasion, Loki, season 2, Echo, and now Agatha, just for shows. Now She-Hulk came out it ended October of 2022, and then you had Miss Marvel right before that. And Miss Marvel, because you got to look at the context of all of it, right? Like Ms. Marvel, I don't know what your thoughts on it were. I really enjoyed Miss Marvel. I thought it was an example of certain kind of how I'm feeling with the first 3 episodes of the show, where I was not really. I was like, yeah, I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm probably not the demographic for it, and I really enjoyed the overall story, and I love the whole family dynamic between Kamala Khan and her whole family, and I really liked all of that. And then we get the great reveal at the end, where it's like, holy shit, she's a mutant.
Mm.
She-Hulk was something I was looking forward to, based on what I heard in the comics. I just think the writing kind of faltered a little bit, and I thought that some of the side characters I wasn't interested in.
Mm.
But then you look at like Secret Invasion, like name recognition of the comic, you're expecting something, and it's the exact opposite. Loki now we was something that we turned around on completely, based on the way that the show kind of ends, and then you start going theory baiting at the end of that. But the other part of this that people might be, and maybe we're forgetting because it's been a while since we've seen something of this caliber besides Deadpool and Wolverine, right?
Mm.
Is that so much of this was based in the Jonathan Majors of it all, too.
Yeah.
Everything we were getting in storyline of the phases was based around Kang the Conqueror, which now, to our knowledge, he's gone. We're not going to see a different version of him. Jonathan Majors certainly is not returning.
Mm.
So that's a big part of it, and that's why I think, I can speak for myself, I'm more interested and intrigued in what's going to happen with Agatha now, because I'm already starting to see the breadcrumbs leading us potentially to all these other sectors of the MCU where they could play a bigger role, whether it's Agatha, whether it's the Coven, whether it's Teen, whether it's Rio, all these different, and Mephisto, obviously. Like, all these characters could play a different role. Echo was a very self-contained story, and it's a fine show, but it's not anything great.
Mm-hmm.
And the movies that we saw, to me, Deadpool and Wolverine again is not. It's not an MCU project. It is, but it's also really like rest in peace to Fox. Like,
Yeah.
it's a tribute to the Fox universe. And then Guardians 3, while it's a fantastic film, is the culmination of the end of something.
Yeah.
And now we have no idea what's going to happen with the Guardians going forward. So a lot of these sort of interconnected stories that Marvel's so well known for, and like diehard MCU fans like us, like, that's the stuff we're clamoring for going forward. So I'm excited to see kind of how we go forward with the show, and I'm definitely enjoying it more than I thought I was going to. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited to keep covering the show with you. I love theory talking with you. We love our MCU when it's hitting right.
Yes.
And in 2025, there's a lot of. I mean, hopefully this will have a really nice sort of. It's been a good year for Marvel. It has been. In context, I mean, we have in 2024 we had X-Men 97, which you, me, and Vinny absolutely loved.
Yep.
And then you had Deadpool and Wolverine, and now you have Agatha that's off to a stronger start than I think we probably could have predicted. We still have Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, the animated series, coming later in the year. And that's it for theatrical releases. I don't think we're getting another show either, but it could be a good momentum going into 25 where we have Captain America and Thunderbolts, which the trailer just came out, and we have Fantastic Four, First Steps, and we have Ironheart, and we have all these different things that now things are going to start coming together because we're only 2 years away from Doomsday. So I don't know. We might be eating good. We might be eating good for a little while.
I think so. And isn't Mephisto confirmed to be the villain of Ironheart?
Well, so the Hood is the villain, which is Anthony Ramos's character.
Okay.
But there's a lot of it's not confirmed, but there was rumors that Sacha Baron Cohen was on set of Ironheart, and Sacha Baron Cohen is the rumored actor for Mephisto. So
I hope that he's funny in it.
That's why I think there's a bit of a comedic element to how they would do it, and this might be a good show to introduce that with the comedy.
Yeah.
With Agatha all along, but these are all rumors, so we have to kind of wait and see what happens. But let us know in the comments, guys, what you thought about this episode. Let us know, are you enjoying Agatha all along so far? Is it better than you guys thought it was going to be through 3 episodes? Is it worse? Is it the same? We love talking about theories with you guys as well in the comments and the MCU going forward. Like Michael and I would love to chime on and talk to you guys. So definitely let us know what your guys' thoughts are. Also, you can follow us on social media if you enjoy this content. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on Threads. We're also here on YouTube, obviously. You guys can subscribe to us. We are the Culture Wave Media Network. We cover all things film and television. And if you guys can give this video a like, we'd really appreciate it. You can also see our stuff on TikTok as well. And Michael and I will be back next week to talk about Agatha All Along, Episode 4. Just signing off, I am Darian Scalamoni.
I'm Michael Peniston.
And we'll see you guys next time.
This is The Culture.